So I'm gonna file for bankruptcy, and I know a lot of people. I know it's frowned upon by a lot of people, because it makes your interest rate and all that other stuff go up. But I'm not really mad at it. I'll go file Chapter 7 in a minute. Well, you can only do it every 7 years, but I'll go file it in a hot minute to get out of debt. So the previous times that I would have to file, I filed once in 2010. Once in like 2007, and then once in 13, I think, because the one that I filed in 07 wasn't discharged. So in order for you to have your debts eliminated by filing for bankruptcy, you have to be discharged. If it's dismissed, then the companies that suing you can file suit against you again. So what I ended up doing, the reason I ended up having to file bankruptcy in the first place, let's start here. So, Marvin Sapp and all of this, church stuff has been going viral lately, right? About the $40,000, so on and so forth. A lot of that stuff, a lot of the debt that I incurred while I was, I ain't gonna say a lot of debt, a lot of my bad spending patterns that I incurred while I was at the quote-unquote church. And so the first time I had to file for bankruptcy was because the church had got a car in my name. And they paid the car note for like three years because I was working for them as a secretary. I was getting paid $100 a week, and they was paying my car note. Yeah, full time, 40 plus hours per week, picking their kids up, running errands, being at the church, all this other stuff. They give me $100 a week, and they pay my car note, which was $374, and then the insurance on the car, I think, was like $300 or whatever, because I was young. This happened, I was like in my early 20s. So they paid the car note for like 3 years, and then for whatever reason, they just stopped paying the car note. And the pastor's wife was like, well, you're going to have to start paying your own car note now. Well, I couldn't afford to pay the car note because they were only paying me $100 a week. So I had to still fulfill my duties as being the church secretary or whatever. But I also then had to go and find a full-time job. So I didn't know nothing about paying a car note. That was my first time ever having a car. I never knew anything about paying a car note. Like what this mean, and late fees and all of this other stuff. I didn't know anything about none of that. So what happened was, when I got this car, the pastor, which was at the time my fiance's father. Well, now he's my ex-fiance, but he was my ex-fiance's father. So what he did, because my ex-fiance was quote-unquote prodigal son, so he had came back, and then he introduced me to the family, and then the father was like, oh, I like her, whatever, bring her around, whatever. So I came around, and they had a little church. It was like a little storefront church. So they was like, well, you can be the church secretary. So before they had got me the car, I didn't have a car. I would drive my mama's car. So one day I didn't have, like, my mama had to use her car, so the pastor had to come pick me up. So me and my ex-fiance at that time didn't have a car. So the pastor had came to pick me up, and when the pastor had came to pick me up, he was like, we gotta get you a car. I ain't thinking nothing about it because I was like 20, 21 at the time. So the next day or so, I get a call from the pastor. He telling me to be ready, and he was so I got in the car with him, and he drove me to this a dealership, a Ford dealership in Decatur. So we get there, and he just like, well, just sit right here, I'll be right back. So I sat in the car for, I don't know, it felt like 45 minutes to an hour. I was in that car for a long time. So he had came back out. My bad, my headphone fell out. So he had came back out, and then he was like, come in, I need you to sign these pieces of paper for me. Now at this point, I had been at the church maybe for like 6 months or so. I don't know, it wasn't that long. It wasn't longer than a year. So, I go in, I sign the papers. I don't know what I'm signing because I ain't asked no questions. It was just him and a man in the office, and I signed the papers. After I signed the papers, the pastor had gave me some keys, and he was like, here you go outside. So I go outside, and there's this little orange Ford Focus with my, like brand new. It had like 21 miles on it, whatever. He was like, this is your car. And I was like, what? Like, oh my gosh. I'm thinking at this young age that he had just bought the car outright and just let me drive it. I didn't know that it was in my name. You know what I mean? So, I get the car and I'm driving, you know what I'm saying? They go back to his house, to him and his wife's house, and they started telling me like what my duties are just to keep this car. So one of the duties was I had to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, take their kids to school because their kids went to a school outside of their district. So I would have to drive them to school, which was like 30 minutes, and then pick them up in the afternoon. I would also have to run their errands and the errands that they wanted me to run for their church, and like the personal errands, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. I ain't thinking nothing about it. I'm excited because I at least got a car, because where we lived, I wasn't on the bus line, and in my head, somebody just gave me a car, you know what I mean? And so should have went that way, but so I didn't really think too much about it. I took the car home. When I took the car home, my mom was like, whose car is that? And I was like, it's my car. And she was like, where you get a car from? And I was like, the pastor's name. I had said, they gave me a car. And she was like, why are they giving you a car? And I was like, I don't know. I'm young. I don't care. Shoot, I got a car. You know what I'm saying? So, my mama did not like it. She did not like it at all. And, they never asked or anything. They just did it. He didn't ask if I wanted a car. He didn't ask it. They just gave it to me. So anyway, fast forward, I'm at the church. I call it a cult, but I was at the church for how many ever years? Maybe I was at the church for maybe 3 years before they stopped paying the car note. But I stayed at the church cult maybe after for another 3 or 4 years after they stopped paying the car note. It's because while I was at the church, the car, which was financed by Ford, ended up getting repossessed twice. The first time it got repossessed is because they had just told me I would have to pay the car note. I didn't have a job, so I had to go and find a job. I had to wait until I got a job, and then the job I had got, I was working at Linens and Things, which is like a Bed, Bath, and Beyond, but it was like Linens and Things back then. And I think I'm making like $100, maybe like $200 a week or something like that. And then I still had to pay rent at my mom's house. Like I still had to pay like $100. So, by the time I had done got the job, the car was already behind. So trying to catch up a $300+ car note and pay your insurance, which was $400, and then paying your car note, which was another $400, off of $200 per, I think every other week. I don't know. It wasn't, and then you young, you don't know anything really about paying like credit cards, car notes, and all this other stuff. Like, it was a lot. So when the first time it had got repoed, the pastor and his wife had got it out. It was like $2,000. So they was like, well, we're going to pay to get it out this time. I really didn't want the car because at that point, it was like a headache. And I was like, and it was a bill. And I was like, so when it got repoed the first time, I was kind of like happy that it got repoed. But after it had got repoed, the pastor was like, we're going to get it out for you. And when we get it out, you got to pay us back. So it was like $2,000 something. So I was like, okay, it's a pastor, when we question the pastor, whatever he says goes, that sort of thing. So they went and got the car out. When they went and got the car out, it had the tow truck people had done broke the CV axle. So when they had broke the CV axle, I had to get that fixed. So that was another $400 that they had to lend me. So they had done paid to get the car fixed, paid to get the car out, and then we're going about business as usual, whatever. So fast forward, I end up losing my Linens and Things job. Why? because it was taking too many hours. In order for me to afford the car note, I would have to work more hours. And because I had to work more hours, I couldn't be at the church when they wanted me to be at the church to run the errands that they wanted me to run. So I ended up losing that job. And then I ended up working for like a member of the church or whatever. Helped me pay my car note for a little while or whatever. And then I ended up, the car just ended up getting repoed again sometime later. So the second time it had got repoed, I was like, I don't even care. I don't even want it. You know what I'm saying? I'll figure it out. So from that point, the second time it had got repoed, I started just going to get my own cars. You know what I'm saying? Going to the car lots, finding my own car. You know what I'm saying? That's when I first found out about buy here, pay here lots and stuff like that. And thinking that those were my only options. Because by this time, my credit is ruined. I had bad credit. So, I go to a buy here, pay here lot, put like $1,000 down on a car. Like an old ass car. So it was like 2000, I don't know, maybe 2008, 2009. No, it had to be like 2006. So 2006, I had went and put like $1,000 down on the 1998 Honda Accord V6 Coupe. And I love that little car. I didn't have no problem. But of course, because it's buy here, pay here, I didn't know that the damages and all this other stuff was up under there. So, that was a whole nother thing. Anyway, so after I had done stayed at the coat, I done had maybe like 4 cars while the time I was there. I had a 96 Civic, a 90 something Ford. I had and the Honda Accord Coupe. So after I leave, I left the cult, the church, the cult church, whatever. I left them probably in 2000 and I left that probably in 2006, I think, 2006 or 2007, maybe 2006. So after I left the cult, I go on a 2-year sabbatical. And during that 2-year sabbatical, I find a job working for the state. I get my own apartment. I buy me a little cash car. Like, life is going good. I can pay my own little bills because my rent was only $4.99. I was making like $10 an hour. Like $400 a week. Everything was going good. I had gotten to me a little groove. Everything was cool. Out of the blue, one day, my HR people called me. Now, the car had done been repoed for about, 5 years by now, by that time. And so the car had done got repoed it been repoed by 5 years. I don't forget about this car. I get a job. And I leave the coat, get a job, and I go to I get a notice from HR like, we need to talk to you. So HR is telling me like they got a garnishment coming out, and I was like, a garnishment? Like, what is that? She was like, well, you owe a creditor, and they put in for a garnishment against your wages. And I was like, this is my rent check. You know what I'm saying? Even though I started getting my own I'm in my groove, I'm still living check to check. So because I already knew like how I think I had been evicted before, so I didn't really want to go through the whole eviction process again. And I was in the groove, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, I'm having my own little freedom, got my own little spot, it's all furnished, you know what I'm saying? I'm going grocery shopping, I'm being an adult. So this garnishment would have been on my rent check. So I didn't know what to do. So I don't know if I had Google garnishments or what, but somehow or another, I heard about bankruptcy. So I started looking. A commercial came on. A King and King commercial came on, and they was basically like, you can come over here and do this, and that'll take care of all your problems. And I was like, shoot, I need that. So I go back and contact them. And when I had contacted them, all you had to pay was like, I don't know, it's like, well, at that time it was like $100-something down, and then you pay the rest. But at that time I was getting income tax checks. So that's a whole nother story. I was getting income tax checks, income tax returns. So I just waited until I got my income taxes. And I think it was around the time I had got my income taxes. And they had wiped out, like, the whole thing. So I had to pay like $1,400. Go! Dang! I had to pay like $1,400. And after I had paid the $1,400, they had took on my case, whatever. But when you're filing for bankruptcy, what they would tell you is that you would need to complete, the first thing you have to do is you would need to complete a credit counseling course, an entry credit counseling course, and then that's when you first file. And then after you file the second, after you go to court, you'll have to do an exit one. Credit course, whatever. So I didn't do the second one. And so because I did the first credit counseling, which is when they had first took on my case, and didn't do the second one, that when after the case was heard or whatever, after I had went to court, because I didn't do the exit credit counseling, they dismissed my bankruptcy case, which meant that the companies that filed suit against me, they could refile later on. So I didn't think nothing else about it, because I'm like, well, shoot, they had filed bankruptcy. Most of the creditors, seeing that I had filed bankruptcy, they was like, shoot, bump that. Because I had included, like, all of my, like, the apartment I had got evicted from. I had included, like, all the credit cards that I had. I didn't have no student loans at the time. I included all my debt, all of it, and thinking everything was just going to be wiped out and I'm going to be at balance zero. Well, I go through life minding my own business, you know what I'm saying? Not thinking too much about anything, because that's long behind me. Here we are years and years later, maybe. So I filed for, that was like 2006, 2007. Fast forward, I done went through life. I done got married. We done moved into, a house, and all of this stuff done moved to a whole nother city, county, just like, I'm living life, minding my own business. Got a new job where I'm finally actually making, in the teens at this point. And so everything is going good, stable, everything is going good. Well, I'm sitting there minding my business, and again, I get another call from HR. This is at a different company that I'm working for. They was like, hey, we need to see you. And I'm like, what's up? They was like, well, we got this garnishment judgment against you. And, they're going to be coming out, of your check. And I was like, again? Well, it was the same creditor, Ford Motor Company. So I was like, I'm thinking, this was after the 7-year statute limitation thing. I'm thinking, like, all of that stuff had done fell off. They didn't worry about it no more, whatever. Well, according to the law, and I'm not saying this is verbatim, but basically, the clock can start over if they receive a judgment within that time period. So they had filed for a judgment the first time. I had went to court, filed for bankruptcy, and if I would have completed the credit counseling, it would have been dismissed, and they wouldn't have been able to sue me. But since I did not complete the credit counseling, immediately after I had went to court and it was dismissed, Ford went and filed for garnishment again. And because of when they did it, each time that they want to sue me, all they have to do is like refile that garnishment or something like that. I can't remember how they had termed it. But basically, like, the clock restarts each time they do this. So I was like, I thought that, after 7 years, they can't do such and such. They was like, yeah, that's what, regular creditors. But when they file for the garnishment things and stuff like that, like, basically it don't apply. So I was like, well, shoot, what I need to do now? It was like, well, you have to file a whole new bankruptcy because you didn't do your exit credit counseling. So because I had to file a whole new bankruptcy, it basically includes all of your household debt. The household income and the household debt. Even if the person that you were living with, like, my husband didn't file with me, but they had to include his income in my filing because it's household income. Well, with my husband's household income and my household income, I made too much at that time to file for Chapter 7. So you can file separately, even though you're married. You just have to include the income. So I'm gonna go. I got to shout out this attorney. I got to find her name because I had talked to her. And she was like, we can just put you on the payment plan. File this chapter 13. You have to repay and all this other stuff. So we had started doing that. So my payments was like $750 a month. They would take out $350 and then pay all of my creditors. They would go in and negotiate the debts and all of this other stuff. And all I would have to pay out of a flat fee was $350 per paycheck, which is every 2 weeks. And so after I had, set up that agreement or whatever, my husband ended up losing his job. My husband at the time ended up losing his job. So the day he lost his job, he was only unemployed for like a day. But the day he was unemployed, like he had lost his job on a Tuesday, like he lost his job on a Monday, and then he was gonna start a new job on like Wednesday. It said like that. So I had contacted this attorney. I had said, hey, my husband at the time, he lost his job. She had said, come back up here. And I was like, wow, what's up? She had said, because now we can file it. Now you can convert it to a Chapter 7. And I was like, but, he started a new job on Wednesday. She was like, but is he unemployed today? And I said, yeah. She said, come back up here today. So I go back up there, and she converts my Chapter 13 into a Chapter 7. And so when she does that, she was like, be sure you take your exit credit counseling, because that if you don't, then Ford is going to come back after you. Like they're going to keep doing this same thing. And lo and behold, when we go to court, because you have to go to a bankruptcy hearing. When you go to court, they basically give you like a trustee. You can see like who your creditors are and all this other stuff. But one of Ford's attorneys, every time we went to court for bankruptcy, they would be in, like, that's very rare. And from the times that I filed bankruptcy, it was rare because a lot of the creditors wouldn't be in court. They would just get the notice. All you have to do is call them, say, hey, I filed bankruptcy. They'll send over some paperwork, and they'll just erase it from their books. Not Ford. Ford has their attorneys in the courtroom. They'll just be in there like monitoring the case and all this other stuff. I guess, I don't know. So anywho, when she had converted it to a Chapter 7, they had finally ended up wiping out my that debt. So I was able to start fresh with a whole new credit profile. And I know a lot of people, but that takes so long for you to, do this and do that and yada, yada, yada. It really don't. It never really stopped me from, it never stopped me from like getting a house, getting an apartment, getting a car. I actually, after I filed bankruptcy, I actually got a better car because I didn't have to go to a buy here, pay here lot. I went to like a reputable traditional dealership, and every car that you get from the dealership it'd be a newer model. It's not like an old model. It don't have like a whole bunch of miles on it. I think the first car that I had financed out of bankruptcy, I did have to take that's because I didn't know that credit had, but it's because I did have to take $1,000 down there. But I got approved. Well, I got approved twice. So the first time I had got approved for a Jetta, it was like a 2012 Jetta, and then the second time I had got approved for like a 2014 Equinox. That was like 271 miles. And I think this was like in 2017 when my second bankruptcy was discharged. So, and then like, you know what I'm saying? Like creditors, of course, will look at you. They'll be like, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. You probably have to pay a little extra, whatever. But it's only for a short amount of time. Because every person I know that's ever filed bankruptcy, they always ended up buying a house. They've always ended up buying a car. They always end up, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a terrible, terrible experience that I've had with it. But I said all that to say is because now I'm going to go file bankruptcy again. And I'm hoping that'll be my last time, but it ain't no promises that it will or it won't be, because If it's available and I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna use it. I don't care. They have ways that if you have a house, that you can protect your house. If you have a car, you can protect your car. If you have, I think the only debts that they don't cover are government debts, and that's basically like student loans and taxes. But if Trump is about to move these student loans over to the SBA, the SBA, it does qualify for student loan forgiveness. So it's North Slate, yeah. The North, yeah, they do. So I'm waiting to talk to my attorney to see if that would be the case, because if so, I have over $100,000 in debt. 86 plus thousand of that is student loans. You damn right I'm about to go and file bankruptcy and wipe this shit off. You damn right, because half of the 86 is interest. You heard that right. Half of the $86,000 that I owe in student loans is strictly interest. It's interest, fees, late fees, and things like that. Majority of it, I think the interest was like, I don't know, 30-something%, something like that. That's when I was 24, when I first started going to school. So, yeah. I'll let y'all know how that turns out.